So today let's talk about how to whip the club through the golf ball and almost get that sort of feeling of how do you get that, I'd say the sequence, but that sort of drop and then whip it through. There's absolutely no doubt with 99% of golfers that I get the chance to work with, whether that's online, face to face, it's always the same thing, right? They might have issues, a bit slicey, a bit inconsistent, but at the end of the day, if you can get a golfer moving more athletically, moving better, and hitting the golf ball further, it's all the same thing. You know, you get somebody moving correctly, working on things like the release, they start hitting the ball further, hitting it better, and less mistakes. You start kind of becoming too conscious, like if you're somebody who fats it and you think so conscious about striking the ball first, it doesn't work that way. You'll just get so consciously thinking of the things you don't do that well that you become more kind of thinking about those things and what you don't want to happen. And what you need to remember is that it's a golf swing. So there's going to be two things really that we're going to talk about today of how you're going to get this feeling of whipping the club through. And I think as a priority, let's first of all talk about momentum. So momentum's a really important thing. It's a really important additional force in the golf swing, but it's also that thing that you need to feel. And the way you're going to get momentum is by understanding, I would say, boundaries. Okay, so what I mean by boundaries is if you were to draw a line vertically through, I'm going to say the instep of your trail ankle and the outstep of your lead ankle. Now at home you could sort of practice this. Now, you know, what I get with my students online is I get them to record themselves in the sort of face on camera, and that way they can see themselves, or to record it and draw some lines, or maybe even get some alignment sticks on a mirror at home, just so you can understand these boundaries first and foremost. And again, it's much easier done without a club. So they'd be in the mirror and they'd have these sort of identifications of lines. And what I'd say is, right, in the backswing position, you want to rotate your trail side like so. So if you want to focus on your shoulders would rotate over towards the instep of that trail. And then from there, you have to start rotating towards the left, okay, like so. And this is a big thing, because what you're doing is you're shifting your pressure towards the lead side, but you're not doing it in a way where it's like this, you know, some sort of massive spinny motion. It's a progressive rotation to the left whilst simultaneously shifting that pressure to the left whilst finding the outside part of that boundary line. And that's really important, because the majority of golfers that I meet, the ones that get too casty, the ones that don't have that desirable impact position, the ones that lack distance, they're the type of golfer that would swing back and they're behind that line. They're not shifting that momentum through towards that lead side. Okay, so that would be the first thing that you'd want to do. Just at home, you could do anything. You know, another exercise and another way of doing this is get a physical object, place a chair on the outside part of your lead ankle, so you sort of swing back like so, and then just progressively move towards that lead side. And again, if you're slightly uncertain of where I'm referring to, reference even the backswing position, then from here, yet again, all I'm doing is shoulders over this line and then this line. And what surprises most golfers is two things really. One, how much that will feel like you have to move. And again, I don't want golfers thinking that I'm advocating that you should move over towards you massively this way. You're still, by definition, this is still a centered motion. This isn't me advocating that you're shifting all your center of mass over. You can still see the way I'm operating very centrally in between my ankle line, but it's this way and this way. And like I said, most golfers in transition, they don't bump enough towards this lead hand side in a rotational manner. You don't shift momentum. You're never going to get that chance to whip the club through. So what you can do is then start to work on some step exercises. Now, my favorite way of doing this is to kind of get set up to the golf ball relative to where your ball position would be. So for me, I always have the ball further forward. Put your lead foot by your trail foot and the club opposite your feet. Now I'm just going to do some swings above the ball. And what you're going to say, I take the club back just a little bit. I'd probably say about 2-3 feet, and then sort of just pause, and that's your sort of takeaway. But then as I complete my rotation and as I lift my arms up in the air, I'm simultaneously stepping towards that lead side. Okay? So once I then feel that weight progressively establishing itself onto that lead side, then you can trigger that rotation, and that's the thing that's going to give you that sort of real whipping sensation through the ball. So, and that's what I'd suggest. I get golfers, a lot of golfers that I work with doing these type of exercises. Okay, and it's not this, yeah? It's not a case of swing up to the top, step, because this will just get you going spinny. It's a case of stepping simultaneously as you're swinging back, and then you can trigger that rotation in towards that hit. So you've almost got to kind of look at it in two stages then now. So like I stated, the first stage would be what you're really trying to do is understand the importance of movement towards your lead side, okay? And what that's going to do, you see, is the motion towards your lead side is going to move your lead shoulder. And your lead shoulder is, I think, the most important part of the golf swing that you're going to focus on. Okay, so you really need, as I start my downswing, as I rotate towards my lead side, what happens is my pelvis will start to move towards the target, chest will start to move towards the target. And as that's happening, my chest and my pelvis is going to move my shoulder. So you can see my shoulders progressively moving towards that boundary line that we were referring to. Now what this is going to do is this is going to naturally allow your arm to sort of come down. And then by just supporting, and this is that second thing with that trail hand, so just making sure for me, my right hand and elbow just sort of supports it and allows the club to stay on plane, okay? This is going to help you really hold on to that lag and whip it through. So the whip, and why your swing doesn't feel like a whip, is because you're losing all that energy too early. That's essentially what the whip is. So to hold on to that whip for later, what I'm essentially saying is you need to be able to move this shoulder, and the way you're going to do that is by doing the exercises that I've already stated. And then as long as you're not somebody who kind of does something wrong with this trail arm and you allow that trail arm just to support you down, and what you're going to do is you're going to swing back, move towards your lead side, elbow comes down helping you hold on to that angle, and then you're going to trigger that sort of hitting sensation, and that's just going to allow you to really whip that golf club through. So every golfer generally who's pretty experienced is going to be able to feel and hear that swooshing sound that you're also desirable and after. But again, the reason why it doesn't really whip through the ball is because of that sequence. And the big problems that I tend to see, golfers get too spinny, starts whipping too soon. Golfers that kind of just hang back, whip too soon. And what you want to do is you want to be here, moving towards that lead side, using that trail arm to support, hold on, and then you can really whip that club up and through and just start to practice it. And I would suggest that this is a really, really big thing that you want to be doing. And the more that you do it, or the better that you do it, the more powerful you're going to be able to become. Because the more you're going to shift that momentum, the more you're going to shift your pressure well. And if you can get that sort of release working well for you as well, which is this sort of support and then release, which we're going to talk about in more detail in an upcoming video really soon, then you're going to start to make so much more distance, okay? And that makes the game so much easier. So work on your step drills, start with your chair drill. I'll catch up with you guys again really, really soon.